Okay, hello everybody. So welcome to the lecture on art criticism. As you can see in your slides, in your screens today, this is about studying, understanding, and judging works of art. When you talk about art appreciation, art criticism is a very important or integral part of it. So you cannot really dissociate or you cannot separate the two ideas from each other. The point of art appreciation, as I have said last first grading, was is the idea that you know how to look at works of art by studying or by using the vocabulary that you have learned or that you are learning. So far, I told you the very important vocabulary that you can include or that you can use for your art appreciation sessions are the principal elements of art and the principles of design. Those ones are available or those ones can be seen in your modules or in your manuals. So when you talk about art criticism, it's a very important part or important process that you will be doing for your paper later on. It's an important requirement for your course or for your subject. Now, of course, I'll be giving you a piece later on or some pieces that you can look into, that you can study. But for now, I'm going to be using as a sample Henry Matisse, the painting The Desert, Harmony in Red, 1908, Hermitage Museum, St. Petersburg, Russia. So those are the five details that I have always told you whenever you take note of your artworks. You need your artist, you need the title of the painting, you need the year, you need the location as well. Okay. So when you talk about art criticism, as you can see from the key points that are here in the slides, it's all about studying, understanding, and judging. We've been doing this for the first grading. So you've been to and fro researching and going over materials or going over some important key terms or important details of the paintings that are assigned to you. You did a podcast, you look for representational and non-representational art, and eventually in your examinations, I assigned to you a particular painting to study, and that's what you submitted later. That's what you submitted. Okay, those ones are part of studying. Understanding, on the other hand, is trying to put together all of the things that you collated or that you research. That's why if you observe in your examination or in your activities, I always ask you to put a conclusion. What do I understand or what can I see or what do I know about this painting? Ano ang makukuha ko sa painting na ito? What can I discuss or what can I talk about? The idea of art appreciation slash art criticism is just knowing how to talk about a piece of work or a piece of art. It doesn't have to be as academic or it doesn't have to be as highbrow as I always tell you. You don't always have to be like, oh, this one symbolizes this one, and then you go or you look for a very a deeper connection into it. As much as possible, it's the idea or the fact that you can talk about it using the key elements or the key terms or the important observations that you have. That in itself is that's a good example already of art criticism or art appreciation. And so for this, we've been talking about Feldman, and then in your homework and in your session yesterday and the other day, you've been focused on Alice Guillermo's ways of studying art. So you read Alice Guillermo's Reading the Image. But before we get there, I will be giving you a sample of how to use Feldman's framework of analysis. Solving art mysteries is one of the jobs that art critics set out to accomplish. Okay, as I have said last time, sometimes this can be self-serving or sometimes it may not be as in-depth or as important as it is, but the work is very important because we have to create meanings, or we need to unlock, or we need to understand a piece of work and what it's supposed to what it's supposed to tell us. Although there are some critics, of course, like the amazing Susan Sontag, who published a collection of essays entitled Against Interpretation. In Against Interpretation, she wrote in many essays in cogent diction and cogent detail. Why sometimes you remember Immanuel Kant, a work is it's just what it is. It's just, it's just a piece of work. Probably it's just supposed to entertain or supposed to give a sense of beauty. But as scholars, as educated individuals, that's why you are in a university, that's why you are studying, will become, I don't know, RNTs or doctors, physicians in the future. So it's nice also for you to employ an academic or an informed way of studying or understanding art. It will also set you differently or set you in a not a higher ground but a better understanding of the things that you also see or observe. So as I have said last time, the study of art usually starts with knowing the right questions rather than knowing the right answers. So what if you don't know what an artwork is communicating? How can you figure it out? There are some rules that we have established in your previous lectures. We're going to follow the steps of art criticism that can help you discover lots of clues to really understand and appreciate a work of art. Okay, here are some steps. In each step of art criticism, you're going to be answering different questions. But these different questions are also already in your handouts or in your module. So you'll be going over them tomorrow. There are 4 steps of art crit. This is based on the work of Feldman, who is foremost an art scholar and art critic. There are 4 areas here, D, A, I, J. So you memorize that. First one is description. You ask yourselves, what do I see? The second one is analysis. How is the work organized? The third one is interpretation. What is the artist trying to communicate? And the fourth one is judgment. Is this a successful work of art? So that's your final decision, or that's the ultimate question based on the first 3 that you're going to ask. Okay, now let's go back to the painting by Matisse. Look at the work of art here. Okay, as I've said last time, the title is also very important. So you can see in here the desert, harmony in red. That's the title. So don't forget that. Okay, the first step, as I have said, is letter D. It's description. So when you look at the piece of work, you ask your questions. What do you see? Ano ba yung mga nakikita ko? What are the elements or what are the parts that I can see in this painting? And so here is some, sorry. Okay, so give yourself some time to go over the painting, try to observe. Very basic. Whatever you see, you write it down or you take note of it. So for example, you can see of course, the wall. What else? See a window. You can see patterns, flowers. You can see food, fruits. You can see these things like on fancy kinds of canisters. So those are the things that you observe. So when you look at a piece of work, the first step is to describe everything that you see. So we discussed this before. I told you, always talk about anong muna yung nakikita mo. That's the first layer. So to give you a list, okay, there it is. So there's a red room, right? There is a wallpaper. There are chairs, wooden, canes. There's chairs, wooden, cane seat. What else? Table and tablecloth. There's a woman. Fruit and wine. Those are the ones with canister. Cut flowers in vase or in a vase. There is a window. There's a landscape that you can see outside of the window. You can see there's a landscape, trees, bushes, flowers, and a building outside. And then the colors that are obvious or that are seen in the painting, of course, it comprises mainly of red, and then there's blue, green, yellow, white, and black. So that's the first step. Okay, that's a description part. It's the easiest thing to do. Okay, so also it's very important. That's why art is cultural, as we also said, because you cannot discuss something that you do not know. Tama ba? Of course, if you are not from that culture, you do not really know the nuances or the special meanings of that. So those are I'm just telling you how culture affects the way we see things also. Okay. The second one is your analysis already. So in your analysis, you're going to look again at the painting by Henry Matisse and ask yourself, how is the work arranged? So what you do here is already what I told you last time, which is your elements and principles of art and design. So go over your modules. What are the different elements of art? Those are the first things that you talk about. Example, the line, the color, the value, the form, the shape, the balance, etc. And then principles, of course, unity, yung mga yon. So proportion, so rhythm, those are the things that you're going to study. That's why those are always the very basic components of art analysis. Okay? It's the second part kasi that you will ask yourself once you decide or once you define what are the different things that you see in the painting. So you now ask yourself about composition. Composition is very important. Composition kasi is the timpla. If you are an HRM student, for example, how do you make sure that all of the things that you put together in whatever you are preparing or cooking is going to taste this way? That's why sometimes even a very tiny little bit of something is going to change the flavor or the whole dynamic of something. Tama ba? For example, what are very strong like salt, it's very small, but if you put a little bit too, if a little bit much or a little bit too, a little bit na konting-konti lang, it's going to affect the way it's going to taste. It's the same with what? Extracts, like pandan extract, for example. 'Di ba? Or the idea of a food coloring, right? So there's a post I've seen in Facebook that's quite funny. So even if you prepared the food very deliciously, so I don't know, you prepared something like a soup, and you put like you had an accident and then you put food coloring, so you put blue in it, so it becomes like a Smurf soup. It's color blue. It changes the whole dynamic of whatever you prepared. Kahit masarap siya, it doesn't look good. So that's the idea of composition. Everything is supposed to come together. Ayan. So you ask yourself the different elements of art. So you try to define the color. You try to see how they work together. So what are the colors, or how is the color? How is line used in the painting? How is shape used in the painting? And so does form, space, and texture. So yun yung mga aaralin mo. Those are the things you're going to see or study. Okay, so to answer that question, ayan. So elements, the color red, as you can see, is very dominant in the painting. Jarring color blue. There is yellow, it's very bright, vibrant, right? If you look at the painting, it's one of the first colors to pop out from the dominant red. And then there is green, which is on the landscape outside, and then there's the color black, technically on the woman or on the human subject. Then there's also white, especially the landscape outside, which balances ang gandang tignan. Line, you can see in there straight. So there's your outline of the table. The chairs, of course, are straight. And then you can see the patterns already of the flower pattern. So it's curvy. It uses a lot of curves. Then you can talk about the shape. So as we talked about it last time, ang geometric shape, these are the ones that are used by Picasso. So these are the points. The dots that are interconnected, you call that geometric shapes. So you have your circle, you have your triangle, you have your square, you have a rectangle, etc. For the organic shape, of course, these are the shapes of nature. Okay. Form, of course, it's flattened. Okay. You cannot, of course, it's not like 3D, so you cannot really touch the different parts of it. Although you have a perception of which is outside, which is the landscape, and you have a perception of which is smooth, and you have an idea or impression of what is probably rough in the painting. Example, look at the chair. That's quite right. So you can see the ridges there. You can see the small lines. It gives you this impression na if you touch it, it's not really smooth. But if you see the plush, yellow-orange seat, it gives you this idea that if you touch it, it's probably soft. Diba? So that's the power of form. But the overall the painting is flattened. diba? Crowd, space, sorry. So there's crowded space on a flattened plane. So as you can see, because the form is flattened, every detail is colored. There is no negative space. Lahat gamit. So it's crowded. Okay, everything is used. And for the texture, as you can see, there are patterns into it. For example, the patterns on the wallpaper and on the table sort of complement each other. Yan. And then even the yellows, ano, the way that the, I don't know, are those lemons or something that are the fruits that are strewn over the table, they seem to have a texture of their own. Okay, so next one is the principles of design. So you ask yourself also that. Okay, as I've said last time, so unity, balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, rhythm, and proportion. You ask yourself, after knowing what is in the painting and after answering the question, how are the elements of art used, ask yourself the question, how about the principles? Paano na-compose? How did we put together all of the different elements of the painting? Okay? And so there is your unity first. Okay, so you can see the color, shape, and line were united. How is that, sir? Um, the color red, which is very dominant, it's the wall and also the table. It was complemented by the design of the print and then the shape. So nag-unify siya because the eyes are looking at one thing and it doesn't bother you, right? So the color and the color of the print and then the walls and then the tables, you look at it and you are not bothered. You do not look at it and you say ano ba yan, ang gulong tignan, or it's messy. No, it's not, right? So that's one of the first things. Balance, on the other hand, you can see in there a woman and then the chair. How is that? So on this side of the painting, the woman is standing, and then on this side of the painting there is a chair. So it was balanced, okay? Not a lot of visual weight ang tawag natin diyan. So if you look at the visual weight, whatever is kung may kilo dapat, no, just imagine that there's a weighing scale here. So if your eyes are like, let's not talk about weight in terms of kilograms. Let's talk about visual weight. So this one is like, I don't know, it measures if ang bigat ng tingin mo, the way you look at it, it looks as heavy as, I don't know, like 30 kilograms. So the chair is also the same weight. It's also 30 kilograms. The way it was presented there. So that's how you talk about balance, okay? Balance is about trying to see the visual weight of how the painting was structured. It doesn't have to be left and right. It can also be top and bottom. Especially, for example, when you are taking photos. Remember when you are in a beach, right? So the sunset is glorious, and then the waves have calmed down, or yeah, even if the waves are moving, you're like taking photos where half of the horizon, the receding horizon, is going to cut the frame of your photo. So the lower half are the waves or the water, and then the upper half is the sunset or the clouds, etc. Ano yun, that's a kind of balance. That's a type of balance. So, you try to understand how balance was used in the painting. Pwede rin naman siyang diagonal. O, di ba? So, pwedeng yung upper diagonal half and then the lower diagonal half. It's just try to see and understand how balance was being used in the painting. Contrast, my favorite. So, it's about, especially, well, of course, backgrounds can help you. We know that Matisse, as I've said last time, is one of the probably the best artists to ever know how to capture color, how to use color. Pangalawa si Chagall. They know how to create contrast, to create an everlasting impact into the painting. So if you look at it, outside it's green, right? The landscape is color green, but inside it's color red. You can see the table and the walls. Black and white, pattern, solid, curve, and straight. So marami rin siya. So black and white, ano sasabi niya doon? The way the woman was dressed, for example, that's a very contrasting color. Even if they do not really mean something for you right now, it's always very important to take note of what you see and what you observe, because somehow in the next question, they may have something else deeper in meaning. So you just take note of all of them, even if it doesn't really make sense. Pattern, yung pattern and then the solid. So you can see the areas that are empty, it's just color red versus the areas that has a pattern on it. So you can see it there. Okay. And others. Emphasis. Another thing that I would like to include to the contrast, I'm sorry, is the, if you look at the landscape outside, it looks different from the view in the inside, right? So inside it has a pattern of like flowers, etc. And on the outside in the landscape, there is your true nature. So yan, contrasting din siya. Emphasis is of course the woman arranging the fruit. What is the what do you think is the most important part of the painting? What do you think is the what do you think is the part or the element in the painting where the artist focused a very meaningful part or a very impactful area? Saan kaya niya nilagay? Halimbawa sa gawang ito, nakalagay siya dito. No? You can see there the woman arranging the fruit. That's where the emphasis lies. That's what Matisse probably wanted us to focus our eyes on also. Movement. Diagonal bottom right to top left, curved lines of pattern and trees. So ito yung sinasabi ko, right, last time where I was discussing movement. If you look at the diagonal bottom right to top left, yan yung parang titignan ng mata mo, something like that. So when you look at the painting, as I have told you, remember when we were studying Amor Solo's Mango Pickers, that's a movement, di ba? It's not really about is there something that's moving in the painting. So it's like a wind effect or something. No, although it can be, but that's not technically what movement is all about. How your eyes darts in the painting. Saan nagsisimula yung tingin ng mata mo. So diagonal bottom right to top left and the curved lines of patterns and trees. So you start from the, so diagonal sabi niya. So bottom right to top left, parang if you look at the painting, because this is the inside of the house, you can see, di ba? Try to be observant also. So if you look at this painting, you can see that the inside is color red, and then there are the prints or the patterns in it. And here, there's it shows you the part that separates the room from the landscape outside. So you can see the window. So he colored it differently. Ang galing, di ba? Grabe, ang galing ni Matisse. Matisse is one of my favorite painters. I'm sorry. So I apologize for my over-enthusiasm. This is so good. Like, just imagine the inside of the house is, you know, sort of dark, but you are using artificial light. Kunwari, you are using your fluorescent or yung bulb ninyo sa loob ng bahay. But outside, it's bright because you can see the pure green. So it's probably in the middle of the day or it's probably on a morning. And then how amazing Matisse is. Look at the orange part here. The orange part here symbolizes that it's something that mixes the light that comes in and then the darkness of the room. My God, that's so genius, diba? Ang galing ng pagkagawa ni Matisse. That's how amazing artists are. Try to observe a little bit and you will discover many wonderful things in paintings, even small details like this window. So nagmix guys yung yung brightness from the outside and the artificial light inside, which is a little bit dark because also of the color. So when they mix all together in the middle of the painting, it becomes orange. And because it is lighter, this is the area where, diba, if you look at if you have a window right now near you, try to look at your window. This one is the area that's first hit by light if you are in a vantage point like this. So it's yellow. Look at that. How amazing. How good an artist. So when you are looking at a painting like this, how does your eye move? So eto yung parang palabas. So titingnan mo muna, you look at whatever is inside the house and then you go out, something like that. So that's how your eyes are supposed to move. I'm pretty sure, fight me, I'm pretty sure that no one will tell you na, no, sir, the first thing I looked at was outside of the window or the landscape. No, I can assure you, no, that's not the first thing you looked at. I'm sure it was here. It was in this first area. That's what you call movement. Okay, rhythm. So how are patterns being repeated? You can see, is there a repetition that merits something or that is worth observing, meron po. So you can see here the repeated or that the curved pattern which is repeated. Of course, the wallpaper. So you can also see the cloth, right? So they seem to be having the same pattern or the same design. Yan, diba? So yeah, that's one of the things that you can look into. So meron siyang repetitive thing. Meron siyang pattern. You can see the pattern of the wallpaper, the pattern of the tablecloth. You can see the trees outside, ano, the way they were designed. It's like a, what is that? It's like, is that like a cotton tree or something, right? Or what's that? The thing you eat in the carnival, is that like cotton candy? It's unique. It's different. And then you can also see the trees. Tsaka yung dots of color. So I told you a while ago to focus your dots of color. You can see the lemons here, right? So they are very vibrant yellow. It's very obvious that they pop out. They like scream in the painting like, hey, look at me, I'm yellow. And you look at outside and then you can also see the yellow part there, which is the flowers. 'Di ba? Sa landscape. Ako, ang galing. And then proportion large with small square. So you can see, of course, the parts of the proportion here. So it has something to do with movement in this painting. Observation natin. So because the way you look at the painting is moved from this side to that side, it looks like this square, parang paliit ng paliit yung square ba? Or the rectangle. So this is like a rectangle painting, and then it becomes smaller with this, and then it becomes smaller with that, something like that. So it's a proportion. It's trying to show us the bigger area and then the lower area, something like that. Okay, so after you comment on that, after you analyzed it, after you studied already the first question, so we started with describing what are the things you see, and now you piece them together. So diba, it's like this is what we call, is this deductive or inductive? Inductive. So you look at the elements muna, paakyat. So you try to look at the elements and you try to piece them together, or you try to gather them so that it becomes a unified whole, di ba? So there's a lot of elements in the painting that you're studying, but at the end of the day, what you wanted to do or what you want to achieve is a unified understanding, a statement about what you understand the painting to be all about. So after that, you analyze what you see. So you use your principles and elements of art and design. Next question, third, interpretation. So now you interpret. So anyone can do number 1 and 2. Okay? Any art student can do 1 and 2, but that is what I always call knowledge part. But the interpretation is a wisdom part. Okay? This is a very important or crucial part of the art interpretation process or the art criticism process, because this one entails your opinion. So it can happen that if I have 38 students in LAC or LAD or LAE, and I gather them or put them all together in one room and they say, okay, let's study the red dessert. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, will have the same thing. So you will write the same things that you see. You're going to have the same comment in the principles and elements of art and design. But once we get to the interpretation part, dyan tayo magko-compete. That's where you can see who has a wiser or who has a more informed or a more special way of looking at things. This is where the value of your intelligence or your wisdom, shaped by your experience, exposure. Kung nagbabasa ka, alam mo mag-comment. Kung nanonood ka, alam mo mag-comment. If you're exposed, if you travel, or if you are listening to stories, it will help you understand these things. So interpretation yon. You give your opinion based on the clues that you have collected. So based on your question 1 and 2, you now try to interpret. Example, what's the question you will ask? What ideas, what moods, what emotions, and what stories do you think the artwork communicates? So, importanteng sagutin yung part na to because this will lead you to, this is technically the most important one. It will bridge whatever you have discovered or defined or written down from the first two questions. That's the beauty of this part, yung interpretation part na yan. So pag-usapan nyo, pag-isipan mo, what do I see and what do I deduce or understand or know based on these things that I see. Yun. So to give you an idea, for example here, it's just quite short. In Matisse's Harmony in Red, or this is the red room, red is the predominant color in the painting. So of course, that's what you can talk about. You'll say the the very obvious thing is that you ask yourself, why is the room colored red? So how does the predominant redness make you feel? That's just one question. But I'm not saying that that is the ultimate tanong or question. You have a lot of possible questions. Anyone here in the class was a possible question you want to sound off in the comment section? You may do so. Or if you don't have, you just take note or you just list them down. But there are many questions you can ask yourself here. Very interesting ones. Probably, very obviously, you ask about the redness. Why is the room predominantly red? On the first place, as I told you, you link it back to the title sometimes. The title is Harmony in Red or Red Room. So bakit kaya? What about it? Why is it colored red? And then what you can also talk about the contrast, like why is the man-made space, the inside of the room, as I have said a while ago, with the bumbilya, with the artificial light, differently colored, the red and the patterns different from the outside. Is there a juxtaposition that Matisse wanted to tell us? Hindi ba? Magandang tanong 'yon, 'di ba? Na ano kaya yung, what's the difference? Why does Matisse give us the painting inside and then he shows us another he shows us a landscape outside? Maybe there's a juxtaposition here. Maybe there's a reason why he used these two elements all together. Maybe he wants to clarify or to distinguish or to divide, or for him to separate two different entities or two different areas in one painting. So you see, you ask questions. Ganun lang yon. It's about asking the right questions when you are looking at it. Okay, so the color red actually makes one feel warmth because it is associated with the sun and fire, but also because the color red has a physiological affect, not effect, sorry, physiological affect that excites and stimulates. More energy is reflected from warm colors than from the cooler ones. So what are the warm colors here? As you can see, they are the ones which are very conducive or very reflective of the light. So there's your red, your yellow, and orange. And traditionally, they are thought to evoke feelings of heat, whether psychological or real. So as a while ago, did you observe the way that I was talking? It's more into the light. It's more into the way that they reflect things. So it probably leads to warmth or yung init ng isang bagay. And that's the beauty about colors because they actually tell us how to feel as well. It helps us understand, do I need to feel cool about something? Like if you see blues and greens and whites leading to turquoise or seafoam, what is this supposed to mean, or what is this supposed to tell me? Those are valid questions, okay? And then there's also the question about, how about this, yung warm na nandito sa painting na to, ang daming red, ang daming yellow, ang daming orange. So that's also where you will research. Sometimes if it's very obvious, kitang-kita, I suggest you also research. I had an experiment in my first year of teaching. I had a class, and then your favorite Jin. So I showed posters, or I showed logos of things that people are always seeing. And I want them to consider it as a work of art, and then we want to talk about it. I want us to talk about it. So we talked about, wala akong malapit na props dito. that time I asked them to analyze Alaska condensed milk, the the golden hair, the golden haired child on the on the can, on the paper that wraps the can. And then I also gave them McDonald's, and then I also gave them yung ano sa gin. Okay, so when they saw the gin thing, not a lot of students were as observant as one. There was one student who looked at the elements and then he asked questions about why is the angel, or why is this angel, why is there these symbols in this painting. So what he did was he googled, or he tried to see the importance or the symbolism of these things. So you can do the same thing. If you are, for example, studying this painting, maybe you can google what is about color red, or what are the traditional or stereotypical, or what are the ideas, notions, beliefs, even culture that are associated or that are linked to the color red. So you can talk about that. And here, from what we find out, for example, the color red is a feeling of warmth. And it associates us kasi with the idea of sun and fire. That's why if you look at the sun or the fire, it's like, well, we sometimes color it yellow and orange, but it's technically red. So you see the three colors I mentioned, yellow, orange, and red. Sila yung kulay ng apoy. And it's not really, if you look at the painting, so sir, is the next question is it what kind of fire are we talking about? Is it like a killing or killer fire? Something that will rage or raise and it will kill people, or it will destroy properties, or it will destroy products? No, it's not. It's not. That's not the kind of fire. So are we talking about the fire also, like passionate fire? Excuse my language, in Filipino, libog. Is it sexual fire that we're talking about? Because that happens in arts or in artworks. No, the answer is also no. That's not the kind of fire, or that's not the kind of red that we see. I'm telling you this because there's a red na ganon. You try to look for the painting of Mondrian, the red nude. So the red idea there is very sexual. No, you can see the sexual, the appetizing sexuality, the oozing sexuality of the subject. But the red that we are talking about here is something that talks about warmth. And because on the first place, the painting is a home. It's a place of warmth, bahay. It's a place of belongingness. It's a place of earth. It's a place of homeliness or homeness. So yun siya. It gives you, they evoke, nagbibigay siya ng feeling, nagbibigay siya ng idea of heat, whether psychological or real. That's why sometimes, like right, I think everybody has that kind of feeling. I hope if you have a very good home, ha, I mean, if you are nurtured well, or if you are well, our homes naman are not always where our parents or siblings are. Sometimes home can be anything where you felt your belongingness. So there are some places that we remember or that we think fondly. So there are times when you're just in a jeepney or you are daydreaming and then you remembered something or you think about something. So naalala mo siguro yung home mo, yung bahay nyo, or yung maybe ang home para sa iyo, maybe the home that you remember is your boyfriend or girlfriend or your parents or your room, or it can even be your school, for example. So I have, for example, one of me personally, ang home para sa akin was my high school. So I had a lot of good experiences in high school. So that's when I think about it fondly, I feel a warmth emanating inside. So it's psychological. So that's the kind of feeling. Or there are times when, alam mo yung sasabihin natin na no, tumaas yung balahibo mo o biglang uminit. That's another kind. So that's another level of heat. So it's also physiological. Pwede rin yun. So that's what this painting was trying to evoke. Artists understand the power of color in affecting the viewer's feelings. Throughout art history, artists have used color to convey and heighten the emotional content of a painting. In the earlier 20th century, artists began to focus on color as a direct translation of their feelings and to use color as an emotional force. So, of course, before they were more into subject. So, they tried for example during the Italian Renaissance, what they did was if you that's why if you look at the works of some of the greats sa Italy, yung mga Ninja Turtles, sina Da Vinci, yung mga yun, focus on one of their favorite subjects was the David. So they were enamored, they were amazed. They like this idea of a very small human who who used his slingshot to kill a giant, right? So that's actually we're obsessed with that, right? If you think about human nature, ang nature nating mga tao, the nature of our humanness or our human thinking is that we're always drawn to the underdog, or we're always drawn to this competition where we want to support someone who people did not think will win. For example, watching Game of Thrones, right? If you're watching Game of Thrones, there are a lot of characters in it, all fighting for a throne, or all fighting for a power. But kahit nag-aaway-away sila, they forgot, or they weren't aware at first that in very far away, ginilid-gilid was a Targaryen. Of course, well, magandang plot twist din, or magandang character development yung someone who came from the original, someone who came from the earlier powers. So she has a very good family name, but they were put down. I'm referring to Daenerys, and eventually, sorry sa mga di nanonood ng Game of Thrones. Anyway, you missed 1/8 of your life. So so what happened was during that part already na sumisikat siya, that's when people suddenly realize, there's someone pala who we forgot. So people have some, we root for her, di ba? You like that because hindi siya napapansin. So ganun yung dating ni David sa kanila, so they were obsessed with it. But later on, of course, the different focus of art changes, and in the earlier 20th century, that's when color naman yung naging focus. So I gave you an introduction of this before, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, the group of artists that we call the Fauves, or the wild beasts. And the Fauve is Henri Matisse, of course. And of course, here are some of the other artists who are very good in color. So there is Maurice de Vlaminck and Andre Deron. Mga Fauvists. Fauves, colors. If you have time later, you can Google and then you can see how colorful their works are. But of course, there's only one Henri Matisse, the amazing colors of Henri Matisse. So you ask your question, how would you feel about the painting if it was mostly green? So you also ask yourself, mga ganyang tanong, or overwhelmingly blue instead of red. Ano kaya kung yung kulay nung sa loob ay blue siya? So naging malamig, naging frozen, parang ganon. Yung frozen na poster ng Disney. If you remember, that was a nice poster, right? You mix the white and the blue together. So you can ask yourself that. Ayan. So this painting, what happens if that was the dominating, or the the important color in that part? Or what about if the color was green, sabi niya, or yellow? How does it change the structure or the composition of the painting? So here is another, remember what's this? Alice Guillermo wrote in Reading the Image. So you try to look at background also, so contextual, tama ba? So the painting went through 3 successive stages. First, actually, it was green, and then it was changed to blue after it was hung at the Salon d'Automne in 1908, and it was finally delivered in scarlet, the scarlet red, that bright, vibrant red, to the Russian collector Shakin to decorate his dining room. Did you know that the color red is used in many restaurants? It's used to, that's one of the psychological effects, diba? It's supposed to make you hungry. That's why if you look at the leading fast foods here in our country, all of them are red. So red, see red ribbon, Chowking is red, Jollibee is red. Well, you cannot say that McDonald's is yellow because inside the secondary color is also red. What else? Technically, they are red. Well, of course, Mang Inasal is different, green. So, it encourages you to order more than you normally would. That's why there's a psychological thing also of color, ano, kung ayaw nyo daw na lagi kayo, if you are the type of person who is easily tempted to eat, do not use red plates daw or red utensils. You use blue. So if you use a blue plate, well, based on psychology, it actually stifles your appetite, so you are not really hungry as you usually are. So red walls and decor also cause people to eat faster since the color increases our normal levels of energy. So it makes your mouth water. So if you look at the painting here, yung sa labas, chill lang. But if you look at the inside, it makes you, yun din, yung parang, it associates this feeling of food when you are looking at this in a museum probably. So what affect did the final location for the painting? Shakin's dining room have on Matisse's color and subject choice. So, Matisse also limits his perspective in his work. He makes breaks in the line around the table, frames the chair, the window, and the little house in an innovative manner by cutting them off and enclosing two of the planes, the green and the blue, in the window. So, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. This is perspective. He's trying to put frame so that you know where this part or this item ends. Yung mesa hanggang ganito lang yung haba. Yung window hanggang dyan lang. Yung layo nung expanse ng landscape hanggang dyan lang. This house is hanggang dyan lang. So, this is limiting the perspective of something. You know where it ends. It's not like a pool, an infinity pool that it just goes on, or a receding horizon. You don't know where the ocean stops or where the ocean ends. Na diretso lang siya. But the beauty of this is that he tells you also where it stops. This is the house, parang ganyan. So there's a break in the line, okay? And then finally, you ask yourself already, do you think this work is successful? Why or why not? So what reasons you now eto na. I always tell students art criticism is not like eto yon, tama to. This is it. I'm telling you. No, it's not like that. That's why even what I have said last time, whenever I present to you an artwork like Mango Pickers by Amor Solo, I will not tell you that this is the right way to look at it. I'll always tell you there is another way that maybe others can look at it, but this is how I understand the painting based on what I see. So, ayun, that's why I showed it to you. I drew some lines, I look at the composition, the color. So, as I last time naman, if you will review or if you will use Feldman for the way I analyzed Mango Pickers, so I showed you, diba, if you remember, the things that I see in the painting, how the elements work together. So eventually I told you that for me the focus is more into the Mango Pickers versus the figure in the middle who is the most mysterious because she has her back on us. So do I think that is a successful piece of artwork? I think it is because it tries to give you this in a way, look at the if you remember the painting, nagtitingin na, wait, sige, I'll show it to you. When I analyze the paper, you're curious how is art analysis talaga in the academe. That one painting by Amor Solo, I wrote a 10-page essay about that. 10 pages ang analysis nun. Ganon kahaba ang pag-analyze ng guys, ng art minsan. So it's very where is that? I thought I have a PDF of that. What is the subjects of art? Subjects. I hope I'm inspiring you to understand or to know more how to look at a piece of art. Kaya hopefully naman may natututunan kayong ganon. So when you go to a museum, when you are traveling, you are no longer shy. You are confident to discuss art. Okay, wait. I'll share my keynote. Okay. Remember the keynote. So ang akin dito, what is my judgment part? I actually linked it to Philippine culture because that's the work of, Amor Soto is Philippine. if you look at what they are doing, some of them are resting, and then someone is working, and then there's the middle figure. I actually linked it to the idea of gossip, mga chismosa, ganyan. So parang for me, the idea of that figure coming into the workplace of the mango pickers, to make chika a little bit. I think it's one of the nicest touch of the painting. It's because that's our culture. That's who we are as Filipinos, 'di ba? Even try to observe me or try to observe your teachers. Kahit na formal yung discussion, kahit na ang subject nyo, mga major na subjects nyo sa BMLS, the teacher is going to share something personal or a little chika on the side. Or, ay kwento ko yung ganyan. Ay, may kwento ako. Or eto nangyari sa akin. So, it's a very natural, well, I'm not saying that everybody, but it happens to most Filipinos that they are very open, or that storytelling or gossip or chika or a little storytelling or narrative on the side is a very natural thing. And so for me, that's what this painting is all about. The idea that the middle figure is mysterious, parang as an art student or art critic, when I look at the painting, I'm also making chismis. I'm telling you, sino kaya yung, di ba you remember how I discussed this painting with you last time? Sabi ko, sino kaya yung nasa middle figure? Anong ginagawa niya? Bakit siya nakaganon? Sino ba siya? I was asking you those questions. In a way, I was like gossiping. I am talking about the middle figure to you. So it's the same, it's a meta-analysis. Parang sa painting din, para bang ina-analyze. Ganun yung ginagawa ko when I talk about the middle figure. But at the same time, I'm also making chismis about her. I'm also gossiping to you about who she is, or who is she probably. So it's the same thing that they are doing in the painting, in my opinion. The way they are talking about something. So it doesn't have to be negative. They're probably talking about the weather, or how much a mango is already, or how ripe the mangoes are, or how tired they are at work. But eventually it's all about the narrative. So that's what I look at, that's what I understand, that's how I judge the painting. And I think it's a very very good, I think that if I'm going to elect a top 5, if there will be a top 5 Amor Solo painting, I will nominate Mango Pickers, because it captures everything of the Filipino provincial scene. How idyllic, how slow, how relaxed the setting is, work on the side, but even if you are working, the work is physical and it toils, but look at them, 'di ba? Parang there's time to sit on a carabao, there's time to postura on the side near the tree, there's time for you to make chismis or for you to gossip. So, yun yung beauty niya. This is just how I look at it. So, yun lang. Where is my going back to my Acrobat reader? Ayan, so going back again to the red room. Okay, so the question is the judgment. Do you think that this work is successful? Why or why not? So I don't know about you, but of course for me it is. So what reasons can you give for your idea of why this is a good or a bad artwork? So, all right. Because it's for discussion, don't worry, you will have your chance to evaluate something. For me, I think this is a good piece of artwork kasi malinis, tingnan mo naman, so malinis siyang tignan. Aside from saying that the elements work together, there's composition in it, try to be very specific, try to show. There's a rule also in writing and in art criticism, which is show not tell. Do not tell me why it's beautiful, you show me why. So do not say that I'm my classmate Jenny, Rafael, or Sophia, or Alisa, or Angelica is pretty. You tell me why they are pretty. So I like her eyes, I like her chin. Oh my gosh, she has a very long neck. Or you give the details about why you think these individuals are pretty. It's the same in art criticism. What specific things can you tell me that makes this painting achieve what it's supposed to achieve? So for me, because it's all about warmth, or because it's all about the presence or the homeliness of the painting, I try to compare it from the outside. So I want to talk about juxtaposition. Like, it's, if you look at the outside, it's peaceful, like it's green, it's verdant, there are grasses, and then it's a beautiful day, the sky is blue. and the trees are there, and then the flowers are in bloom, as you can see, the yellow dots there and the green blue things there. But it also makes you curious, like the inside of the house is very warm, and it gives you this different feeling about you juxtaposing what is outside and what is in the inside. So whatever is in the outside, even if it's beautiful, even if it's a very beautiful day, nothing can still come close to the warmth that we feel at home. And the warmth that you feel at home is not just, as I have said a while ago, it's not just about the temperature, because you can go anywhere that has a heater in it, or you can go anywhere to keep yourself warm. But the warmth that you feel in your home is very different from the rest of the painting, right? Like the warmth that you get from your mom when she makes your favorite food, or the coffee, the timpla of coffee that you have when you are at home, which is different from even if you are in Starbucks, if the coffee is very special at your home barako, so it's different. Those are very simple ideas of warmth. Or maybe, you're a very formal person, but when you're at home, burara ka. So it still gives you this level of warmth. And I think that is what is very obvious in the painting, this putting together of all of these elements. You finally understand the warmth and the joy of being at home. So psychologically or physiologically, it raises this level of heat, this warmth, and this satisfaction that, hey, I'm here, or this is my home, and now I feel warm. So I think that the painting was able to capture it. So if you look at okay, so there's a part in there that where you're supposed to study something also. So I was talking about Marc Chagall. There's a painting called Paris Through the Window, and you're supposed to do a DAIJ analysis. Ito siya. Okay. Chagall naman color. Galing, no? Ano siya, mga contemporaries ni Matisse. So you ask yourself the same questions. Okay. All right. So I'll be sharing this in Google Classroom, and then you have a few. I'll stop recording. Wait lang. How do we stop this?